Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the Winnipeg Jets, one of the 16 teams who are looking to claim Lord Stanley's Cup this playoffs. One of, in my opinion, the most stacked and probably going to be the most entertaining playoffs ever. It's just all these teams feel like they could win the Stanley Cup, and I feel like every season we go into the playoffs, and I feel like every channel probably says that, all the analysts say that, this is going to be the most exciting playoffs, because of course they are. Ran into my whiteboard. But just personally, as just a regular person, as a fan, I do think this is going to be, the funnest playoffs to watch. Because even teams like Winnipeg, where usually I would, even just a couple weeks ago, I was souring kind of on them. As we get geared towards the playoffs, I think it's going to get even more and more exciting. As a team like Winnipeg has kind of changed my attitude, especially in recent games, especially one where I had an untimely upload of an Avalanche saying they're going to dominate the Winnipeg Jets. And they fooled me. So let's talk about the Winnipeg Jets, a team who was expected to be a mid-tier and especially a seller team. Everyone expected them to sell Connor Hellebuyck, Mark Scheifele, and they were supposed to keep guys like Dubois, keep guys like Kyle Connor, and then Dubois gets sold, so it's okay, so I know I messed up my sentence, but don't worry about that. They sell Dubois, and everyone's expected to be sold as well, and gear up with Connor and Morrissey for the future. And then they sign Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck to extensions, and everything seemed to change as they trade Dubois, and guys like Velarde and Iafallo have looked so much better in Winnipeg and have been vital pieces to this crew. And Dubois sucked in LA. And now the Winnipeg Jets look from being a mid-tier expected seller to being a top-end, at one point the number one team in the league, buyer. But are they ready for the playoffs? And the main thing that was keeping me behind, and especially a couple weeks ago when I made a video about the Winnipeg Jets, was their last stint in the playoffs, as in last year, when they played against the Vegas Golden Knights, and they looked literally like the dumbest, most pathetic team ever against a team in the playoffs. The playoffs are all about fight, grit, and playing to the end and wanting to win. Putting blood and everything, the hardest of all competitions. The Winnipeg Jets did nothing, and Vegas did. You even get guys like Keegan Koloskar would just you just bump a guy off the puck, get over to Nick Waugh, and Waugh would just shoot it in, and Hellebuyck just had that too many times happen and would just get by him, right? And Winnipeg had no punch back, they had nothing at all. They looked abysmal. Guys like Connor, guys like Scheifele just did nothing. It was just a sad series to watch, and every time those games came on, game 1, game 2, I watched them. But then after that, I would put them on when other games were in intermission or something, because I was I don't care. This series was so boring, and especially game, was it 5 or 4? I forget if it was a sweep or not. It should have been a sweep if it wasn't. Actually, I don't think it was. I think Winnipeg did win one game. But anyways, Winnipeg looked horrible. But they do seem to have changed everything, especially being a top team in the league this year, as things are going so good for them, as especially their latest win against the Avalanche. And the Avalanche currently, I'll talk more about that as the first confirmed matchup that we have, is interesting. So hang on, before I get there, let's talk about the pros of this team. First off, Connor Hellebuyck is putting on a hell of a season. This guy, goaltending, just when it comes to when people say a goaltender is a brick wall, people overuse that all the time, but Hellebuyck is the definition of that, where a goaltender doesn't need to make these crazy wild saves. Hellebuyck just literally just stands there and he absorbs and just takes everything, and it is so crazy to watch. And when you have a goaltender like that, who is just ready to, we have seen in the playoffs last season, where a guy like Bobrovsky and Lyon can not carry a team, but with 2 goaltenders and then one guy just to get a couple of timely goals, those type of goaltenders can carry a team so far. And Hellebuyck is definitely going to go down as one of those goaltenders in the history of the NHL to do that. Hellebuyck this season feels like this is the year for him to do that, with a solid defense in front of him. It's definitely not the best, but with Morrissey and Pionk and DeMello and Dillon in front of him, it is a solid it is a solid lineup in front of them to keep them in contention and Hellebuyck to eat the rest of the pucks that get their way, right? And to make those big saves. And then the offensive depth is very solid. I mean, at this top of the lineup, you got Connor, you got Scheifele, right? But then you keep going down. Even the guys who are injured right now, like Perfetti, all the way down the lineup. There are so many, like, 30, 40 points guys on this team. Even 50s, I think I remember looking at it. There's so many guys just through the lineup, right, that just keep adding, like, more and more punch. And that's what you need in the playoffs, is those rolling lines to keep the offensive pressure, not just offensive pressure, but just the forecheck and back check, just keep the pressure running through a team. That's why a team like Colorado gets knocked off against a team like Seattle last year, where the depth isn't there, and a depth of Seattle can just keep going and rolling. And then Colorado just has to beg for mercy that they don't get scored on too many times from McKinnon and Makar to keep pucks in the net. Winnipeg has those rolling lines, right? They can keep rolling a line out there, and it is going to be another contending line to go score a goal or just to bump the guys around a little bit, keep the pressure running, and not let the other team get too much momentum going forward until guys like Connor and Scheifele and the rest of them get back on the ice. So, for Winnipeg, my biggest issue, though, is when it comes to the playoffs at this current moment, I don't like they don't have a Matthew Tkachuk, right? They're running into the scenario where like Carolina in recent past, where they don't have a guy, right? And I know this team does have some guys on the team who can step up and do it, but just especially last season where the fight is just not there, it is hard for me to be a believer. Because personally, like, I love guys like Kyle Connor, underrated goal scorer. Guys like Mark Scheifele are great, but the issue is that they just don't, like, those guys haven't shown in recent playoff that they're going to, when Hellebuyck is shutting down all the goals, that they can go down in overtime and score that one goal until Hellebuyck is finally beaten, right? So that's my only concern. So after all that talking about, let's go into the actual playoffs, and where they are going to play off against a team who absolutely has a guy who is a top-end threat who can get those timely goals, and they actually have a few of them. So, the Avalanche. Just a day ago, or 2 days ago at this point, I made a video about the Avalanche, and I thought they would absolutely probably crush the Jets. And then the Jets beat them 7-0. And then everyone started making fun of me. Now, I get it, because that is pretty hilarious. But at the same time, I would never go off of regular season, regular season series to judge a playoff series, especially when you have a 2 years, well, I guess, depending on you look, yeah, now it's 2 years removed Stanley Cup champion as the Avalanche. A team that is definitely way more, has added to the lineup, and is definitely way better geared for a playoff run than in recent past. So for me, the recent win against Colorado doesn't really shake me too much, except to know that the series is definitely going to be much more of a battle. And so to me, upset, I don't know. I don't know if it's an upset series for Winnipeg to win. To me, it's like Colorado, but the good thing for me right now, if you're a Jets fan, is Colorado has lost to the Jets. They had the comeback behind from Vegas just a day ago. I was watching that at Twin Peaks, and that was fun. And yeah, Colorado has been very cold, and the new nickname for Alexander Fordiev is very funny because he just keeps giving up those 4-goal games. And we have a team that, like Seattle, show Georgiev last season that he's not that competent of a goaltender, even though everyone was like, he's one of the best. You're just wrong. You're just a bunch of fanboys. Colorado seems prime right now for another upset in the first round, and I don't know what happens if that does. Because they have made all the right moves to make depth better and make up front, like, top 2 guys, top 3 lines. Defense is fine. Georgiev is a competent goaltender enough at times. But I don't know. If there was ever a time for me to believe the Jets could upset the Avalanche, it's right now. So maybe. But then once they get against Dallas is where I'm like, I don't know. Dallas is so, like, just cooking. They are, like, literally, like, everything is just baking. There's fish in the skillet. There's chicken in the oven. They got potatoes boiling. Like, Dallas has everything going for them, and they are cooking. Dallas is hot. They're stacked. Every part of the team that they have is probably, like, when I say, like, offensive depth for Winnipeg, they have the same thing, but better, in my opinion. And they have the recent playoffs where I do believe in them more. And to me, that's where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But if a guy like Hellebuyck can shut down the Stars just enough times for a guy like Connor to get 2 goals in 2 games, and not 2 goals in 2 games, but gets like 2 goals per game, and just something like that, and they can go on a run where guys like Morrissey can feed the puck in, they get a couple good tips, and they win some games 3-2 or something. Sure, maybe. But then the Western Conference Finals, where if they play against a team like Vegas, I'm like, They play against a team like Edmonton, I'm like, maybe. And then you bring up the Stanley Cup Finals against the Rangers, against the Hurricanes, against the Panthers, or against the Bruins. That's where I'm like, I don't know. To me, I still am not a full believer that Winnipeg can win the playoffs. What I am a believer in, though, is that this team has somehow avoided the path of going down a tenuous, horrible, slow burn of being pretty mid and selling their top guys and then just kind of doing nothing this season. The next year probably doing nothing again as guys like Perfetti jump up since they sold some guys away, especially their best goaltender ever in Connor Hellebuyck. They've avoided that death and have gone the best route possible, which I think this series and this season is going to be them showing that they've put together an amazing depth team and they're going in this direction. And I think this is the year where they're going to lose in the playoffs, and instead of being down here to start next year, they're up here and can easily build upon it and go up a little bit. And with a couple of acquisitions, I know Toffoli was added to the team, but I don't think that's it, right? If they could have added the type of players like a Hannafin and Hurdle and like Vegas did, if they could be a team to add a guy like Steven Stamkos or something and have a true goal scorer in the lineup or something, if they're a team that's able to bring in a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko, if they can bring in a guy like Tarasenko and I can't think of anyone right now, but just a couple of those top end guys who have the veteranship in the playoff performance. Maybe they bring in a guy like Jake Gensel or something like that. Then I can believe in them. But for this very current moment, it's not a team. This team is not selling me to win the whole playoffs. But an upset in round 1 feels like they could do it. Win the first round, they lose to Dallas, who then goes to win the Stanley Cup. Feels like a good death for them because then they can build upon it and just keep building next year and add a couple more top-end guys, especially the defense. They're going to add a guy, obviously not this specific character, but some solid defenseman like Chernak to the lineup, just some sort of solid, a Chris Tanev, and if this was the Dallas Stars where they had Ryan Suter and Tanev instead on this team, right? Then I would believe in them a little bit more. But it's just those little issues where they just don't have those pieces together to really help Hellebuyck and them be a solid defensive shutdown game where their 4 great lines can keep rolling until they get enough goals to win. That's where I have an issue with, because they're not good enough defensively, and goaltending can only get you so far until you need guys like Eichel and Marchessault and Carlson and Stone and Waugh and all those guys to finally put some pucks in the back of the net, and Petrangelos and Theodores in the back end. They just don't have all those pieces. So to me, I don't think it's a shock to say Winnipeg doesn't win the Stanley Cup, but a potential first-round win I would believe in. But that's about it. Other than that, I think this is a fine year for them to go in, get knocked out at some point, and build upon that, right? And I think they have a very good chance of doing so. And next year, I could be a big believer in them. But that is all I got to say. So thank you for watching this. Please, if you made it this far, I'm begging you, please subscribe. And until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.